sometimes you got to do something that's different. You got to shake up your routine, do something different. For people to be silent and alone, their own thoughts, no music, no podcast for a day, just that, forget the walking and the moving their body. That's hard for people.
Welcome to the Spartan Up podcast, hosted by Joe De Sena, founder and CEO of Spartan Race, and brought to you by Wild Health.
We are talking about overcoming obstacles. The same way we teach people to get over obstacles on the course, we will teach you here on the Spartan Up podcast to get over obstacles in your mind.
Get fully personalized healthcare based on your DNA, biometrics, and blood work with Wild Health, the official healthcare provider of Spartan. Go to wildhealth.com and use the code Spartan10 to save 10%. This episode of Spartan Up is brought to you by Trifecta. Trifecta delivers delicious, macro-balanced meals directly to your door. Use the code Spartan at trifectanutrition.com to save 40% off your first meal plan order.
Joe De Sena here, CEO and founder of Spartan and the Spartan Up podcast. I got a really good one for you here today. I got my buddy Colin O'Brady, who walks solo across Antarctica. He took some time off of climbing Everest for us to join us. Thanks to our sponsor, Spider Brackets. This is a company that makes all these cool attachments and accessories that go onto your laptop so that if you're like myself or Colin, I don't know if we'd ever use it because we're probably more Flintstone than we are Jetson, but the people that film for us and the people that do these things, they use these attachments, they use these accessories so that you can look better on screen, you can be more efficient, you can work from anywhere. So check it out at Spider Bracket. Now let's get into the meat and potatoes of this thing. Colin, you stopped climbing Everest just for a moment to join the podcast. Fill me in. What's going on?
Yeah. Spider Bracket, they sent a helicopter and extracted me off the mountain so I could talk to you today about my new book, The 12-Hour Walk. So here we are.
12-hour walk. Last time you took a walk, it was like 120 days.
Joe, you're going to love this. You're going to love this. I know you're a kindred spirit. You and I are also always trying to inspire other people to get out of their comfort zone, unlock their best lives. So I've written a book. It's called The 12-Hour Walk. It definitely recounts all the different adventures that I've been on, Everest twice, climbing K2 in winter, walking across Antarctica solo, rowing a boat across Drake Passage. But at its core, it's all about mindset. It's all about overcoming limiting beliefs, which I know you and I are passionate about. But at its core, it's a single challenge. It's really a single challenge for the reader, for the audience, and ask them to go on a journey of their own, which is simple as this. You're going to love this. Turn off your phone, put it on airplane mode, walk out your front door, and walk in silence and solitude for 12 hours. Go meet yourself. That is what this book, that is what this challenge, that is what this global movement is all about.
I love it. I get people, as you know, millions of people to basically do that all around the world. But they have to throw a spear and do some burpees and climb some things in the interim. And that turns a bunch of people off, right? Because they're like, I don't know if I'm in shape. I used to be an athlete, but everybody should be able to walk for 12 hours.
Well, the thing is, I came up with this. I did walk across Antarctica, as you know, solo, 54 days, freezing my butt off out there. 12 hours was my normal day, walking across Antarctica for 54 days in a row. And I found just deep places in my mind, places of calm, peace, fulfillment. My mindset was stronger than ever coming out of that experience. And I thought, okay, you got to go all the way to Antarctica to conjure this. But then, during COVID, I'll be honest, man, locked in my house in those first couple months of COVID lockdown, I found myself in a pretty low spot. I was depressed. I was anxious. I was on a book tour at the time. I was actually about to go climb Everest with my wife. Just everything canceled, just like all the rest of us. I know for Spartan Events Company, obviously that was a tough time in the world, right? Just so much intensity. And I found myself, rare for me, but I saw myself in a low moment, kind of sitting on my couch, just in my pajamas late into the day. Like, what the hell am I supposed to do with myself? And I thought back to the last time that I felt really strong, confident, poised, fulfilled. And I actually thought back to these 12-hour days walking across Antarctica, pulling my sled, despite the challenges, the minus 40 degrees and the frostbite and the starvation. I actually found a lot of peace in those moments. So I said to my wife, Jenna, don't worry about me. Tomorrow I'm getting up at 6 a.m. and I'm going for a 12-hour walk alone. And I'm going to put my phone on airplane mode. So if you call me, you're not going to be able to reach me. And she was like, yeah, she's seen me do a bunch of crazy shit over time. She's like, whatever, have fun. And when I came back, I had just completely wiped the slate clean for myself. I felt better that day than I had felt in months, and really going back to that. And I realized, okay, is this just something that I can tap into? Because, I've walked across Antarctica. I've done all these crazy endurance events. And so I started suggesting it to other friends, right? We had all sorts of friends who were locked in their houses during COVID lockdown. I said, hey, I did this thing called a 12-hour walk. I literally just put my phone on airplane mode and walked for 12 hours and came home, and I felt amazing. And all sorts of different people who don't think of themselves as athletes, people who don't, whatever, consider themselves this or that, did this 12-hour walk and have come back completely changed from the experience. My 77-year-old mother-in-law took the 12-hour walk. For her, that looked like walking around her block for one time, then sitting on her porch in silence for an hour, and then taking another walk, another lap around the block. But she was committed to the 12 hours of silence. And so this 12-hour walk, this book, this movement that I'm starting is really about meeting people where they're at in this moment. There are no excuses for this, because whatever limiting belief you have, there's no race. It's not about who can go the furthest, who can go the fastest, who can go the longest. This is about you taking a day to reflect in your own mind. And I believe it unlocks what I call a possible mindset, which is an empowered way of thinking that unlocks a life of limitless possibilities.
I love it. A couple of people said to me, including Marion, who's working behind the scenes to make this podcast work right now. She was just with me in Vermont. We had our annual death camp for kids. The real name is Camp Spartan, but I call it the death camp because it gets kids excited. And I was out in the woods for, many, many, many hours, maybe at times for 12 hours. And I felt alive and I felt good. And there's no phone service, to your point. And the kids looked amazing. And so I get it. There's going to be a lot of people pissed off when I say this, but we are fighting with each other. We're fat, we're sick, we're depressed. And I don't know if you agree with me. I assume you do based on writing this book, that the best way to get back to your optimal self is get rid of the Captain Crunch and do something like this.
Absolutely. I mean, look, this isn't to vilify technology. You and I are doing a podcast right now. We're using the internet, right? I'm on my phone. I know you and I both use social media as a tool to spread our message. But it's to say there is a time and a place to shut all that shit down, take a day in your mind, in your own body, in your own soul, get outside, move your body. And, one of the things that I write about in the book that really resonates for me, and I think it resonates with you, which is I think about life kind of on this scale of 1 to 10, 1 being kind of like our lowest moments in our life, right? Just the deep, depressing moments. I had a lot of those walking across Antarctica: fear, doubt, anxiety. As you know, a little bit of my story, Joe, I severely burned myself in a fire 15 years ago in Thailand. I was told I would never walk again normally. I felt ones. And then the 10s are these highest highs, right? Completing this Antarctica crossing, or the day I fell in love with my wife, or, these are these high moments. But what I come to realize is that people want the 10s, but they're not willing to experience the 1s. And what ends up happening, I realize all of my 10s, all of my deeply most fulfilled moments are not in spite of my 1s, but they're because of my 1s. But unfortunately, in our modern society, too many people are caught in what I call the zone of comfortable complacency, like this 4 to 6 range. Yeah, I got a job, it pays the bills, it's fine, whatever, 5, just another 5 day. Or been dating this person for a few years and we cohabitate. It's not abusive. It's not bad, but 4, 5, it's just blah. People live their whole lives, as you and I know, Joe, in this 4 to 6 range, because not because they don't want the 10s. Everyone wants the 10s, but they're unwilling to risk feeling a few 1s and 2s along the way. But I'm here to say, and I know what Spartan is all about, is saying, go experience the 1s. I'm going to put you through the 1s, but after you feel the 1s and the 2s, that peak arc, that pendulum is going to swing all the way back to the 10s. And the 12-hour walk, honestly, is built from the same methodology of saying, you know what? Sometimes you got to do something that's different. You got to shake up your routine, do something different. For people to be silent and alone, their own thoughts, no music, no podcast for a day, just that, forget the walking and the moving their body. That's hard for people. People are used to being able to not be bored, be distracted, be able to check their phone, their social media, get that dopamine hit whenever they want it. Facing your own self and your own thoughts, that's tough. You might feel some 1s and 2s out there. But I've known a lot of people to take the 12-hour walk. My goal is to inspire 10 million people to take this walk. But every single person I know has come back to their front door. They're feeling an 8. They're feeling a 9. They're feeling a 10. They're feeling some serious breakthroughs, which isn't just for that moment, but the ripple effect through the rest of their lives of going, oh, right. I got to shake things up. I can't just live in this 4 to 6 zone of comfortable complacency. I got to get some dust and dirt and sweat and tears on my face. And that is where the juice and the experience of life is. And so this movement, this 12-hour walk is really all about that.
My mother introduced me to a race in Queens, New York called the Transcendence Run. I was very young, and it's a 3,100-mile run around a 1-mile loop.
Wow.
And participants will attempt to do it, maybe 7 or 8 people each year, 50, 60 days, kind of like your trek across Antarctica. And I remember doing stuff not that distance, but then seeing that and realizing, oh, well, then I could go walk with my mom for 10 miles, right? Because it's not 3,100 miles. And what I found was everything you're saying. And I suspected it was because, like, I just wanted water, food, and shelter. Like, you just get to a place where you just want to go home. And it's kind of liberating when you get there, because all the nuttiness of everything else in your life, which is really insignificant, but you're making mountains out of molehills, go away. They melt away. Is that, you agree?
They completely melt away. And that's why, some people joke, they're like, well, the 12-hour walk, like, this is the most simple thing ever. And it's like, exactly. That is the point. Like, there's magic in simplicity. It's like, you don't need to like wait or buy this gadget or do this 2-year-long training plan. This is like, I'm telling you, you can walk outside your front door tomorrow morning. You don't have to prep for this. It doesn't, like I said, doesn't matter. Take some breaks along the way, whatever. Like, you are equipped to do this right now. And so many things, like you said, you break your body down and you realize what's leading to fulfillment, what's leading to your best life. It's those basic things. It's back to those basics, 100%. And really the book itself, each one of the chapters I break down and I share a story from my various adventures. This is not some boring academic textbook. This is edge of your seat. This throws you right in. I'm rowing a boat across Drake Passage and there's 40-foot swells crashing over my head and icebergs. And that chapter is about being uncomfortable. But it's the 10 most common limiting beliefs that people face, the excuses that you and I have heard from our friends, our community, our peers, ourselves at times, right? We're human. We experience these. But it's, why are you not living your best life? Oh, I don't have enough money. I don't have enough time. I'm not strong enough. What if I fail? What if people criticize me, right? And so each chapter in the book breaks down that story and offers advice along the way for my life and what I've gone through. But at its core, it offers this call to action to say, all of those limiting beliefs, those are beliefs. Those aren't facts. Those aren't truths. The truths are inside of yourself. And this walk, this actually taking this test, this look inside the mirror at your own psyche unlocks that and allows you to really tap into that and move past those beliefs and turn it really around onto your own inner strength and power.
I think a lot about limiting beliefs. I remember we had somebody on the podcast who had a lot of time alone climbing a mountain, and thankfully it was awesome. She listened to our podcast. I don't know why she listened to it. How she found it. She was a Russian climber, and she came to the farm and she said, people learn helplessness, which is that's exactly what you're saying, the limiting beliefs, right? And I was like, how do people learn helpless? Oh, because as a parent, we tell kids this, and as colleagues, we tell people this. And before you know it, you get boxed into what's possible and what's not possible. And I remember the first time my kids ran a Spartan race, and they're running full speed, coming off the starting line, and then there was a puddle, and they stopped, and everybody else went. And I was like, how could my kids? Oh, because we probably told them don't get dirty so many times, right? That they stopped in their tracks, and we don't even know it's happening to us, but we put all these limits because we learn them.
Yeah. Well, no. What's so funny? What's so interesting? I open up the book, first page of this book, and I put a dictionary definition. It's sort of a term, a phrase that I've coined that I call a possible mindset, capital P, capital M, possible mindset. And I define that as an empowered way of thinking that unlocks a life of limitless possibilities. And then there's a question that I love to ask. I do a lot of public speaking. My nonprofit, I'm in schools with young kids, elementary school kids, all the way up through different grade levels. And then, in my professional career, speaking to, executives and business folks and whatever. And I asked this question, what's your Everest? Really, this is an easy, simple metaphor. What's your big goal? My childhood dream was to climb Everest. I've been fortunate to summit that mountain twice. But what's your Everest? What's your goal? And when I asked that in a room full of children, second, third, fourth graders, 8, 9, 10-year-olds, 500 students in a gymnasium, 500 hands shoot up in the air. They all have the answer immediately. My Mount Everest is to be the first person in my family to graduate from college. Or, my Mount Everest is to make sure the snow leopards are off the endangered species list. And I'm like, As I go up the grade levels, high school, half as many hands, college, a few fewer hands, corporate America, middle management, corporate America, 40-year-olds, there's 2 hands out of 500 that shoot up. I'm like, what the hell is happening here? And I realized that this possible mindset, this 12-hour walk is a way to unlock this possible mindset, but it's not unlocking something that you didn't have. It's the opposite. It's what you're talking about with your kids in that run is we were actually all born with this belief. We were born with a belief in limitless possibilities, the limitless potential inside of us. And we actually, unfortunately, society, the way it's structured right now, teaches us to have limits, to put limits on ourselves, to follow the rules, to step in line, etc. And we lose that over time. And so this tapping into this walk, this tapping into this silence in the psyche, you're putting yourself through this difficult challenge to come out the other side stronger, is actually a way of reteaching yourself what you already knew when you came out of the womb, that we as humans have these limitless capacity to achieve extraordinary things in our own lives.
No doubt about it. And when you get done with a 12-hour walk, I would imagine you unlock some of that.
Absolutely. I mean, and that's the purpose. That's the goal of tapping into that. Those limiting beliefs. One thing that I found that's interesting about limiting beliefs. So you're listening to this podcast, which means you like my man Joe here, like I do, like the motivation. But you might be looking for a kick in the butt because that's what Joe does. He motivates us all to fucking be a little bit better. Excuse my language. But the thing about the 12-hour walk that I found is that the experience, we're talking about, this could be tomorrow, this could be next week. On September 10th, I'm inviting mass participation in the 12-hour walk. I'll be walking that day. So if you need accountability, you'll be walking alone, but other people will be doing it. But the journey actually starts right now. You're hearing about it for the first time right in this moment. And some thought, as you're on the other side of this podcast listening to it, you're in your car driving, you're on a walk, or you're on a run somewhere, and you're thinking about this. There's potentially some limiting beliefs that are popping up for you right now. You're going, I'm hearing about this. This is a stupid idea. I don't have enough time for that. My ankles are weak. I couldn't walk that long. That's my body's not strong enough, whatever that is. And what I found is why I like to say the experience of the journey starts right now. The first time you hear about the 12-hour walk is that right now I'm holding up a mirror to you. By putting this challenge in front of you, I'm actually holding up a mirror to your own psyche. And whatever limiting beliefs might be coming up in your mind that you're applying to the 12-hour walk, I encourage you to look at that for a second and ask yourself, are those the same limiting beliefs that are coming up in multiple areas of my life? And what I found is the answer is generally yes, meaning what's holding you back from living your best life or unlocking the fullness of your potential is the same loop that you're running. And so the 12-hour walk is an exercise in not just the 12 hours, but this moment right now, the moment you're listening to this podcast, holding up a mirror to your own limiting beliefs and going, oh. But if you can push through that, if you can go, your first thought was, I don't have enough time. But you realize that you prioritize 3 Saturdays from now, you get the babysitter, you get your spouse to look after the kids, you make some arrangements in your life, you realize, oh, I do have time. I do have time for things that are important for me. I do have time to work on myself to become a better self, or whatever the limiting beliefs are. The next time that constant loop that's holding you back in other areas of your life, it comes up, maybe that thought still occurs, you go, oh, but with the 12-hour walk, I found the time. With the 12-hour walk, I found the strength. With the 12-hour walk, I wasn't afraid to fail. Maybe I can actually have that courage and rewrite those limiting beliefs. So the exercise, the 12 hours itself, of course, is a beautiful and the most profound happens within those hours of the 12-hour walk. But the journey into your own psyche and your own bargaining with yourself actually happens right now in this moment, which is why I encourage people to commit, to pick a date. And like I said, September 10th, if you need the knowledge or the energetic accountability to others, you'll still be walking out your front door doing this yourself. But you can do it that day. I'll be walking with you, and thousands of other people around the world will be walking that way with you as well.
So tell me what you unlocked when you crossed Antarctica. What happened to you mentally?
These are my top 7 tips for boosting your immune system. Hi, I'm Dr. Julie Fouché from Wild Health. Now, these first 2 tips are the basics. There's no magic pill. These are the things that your mom used to tell you when you were younger and you started to catch a cold. Make sure you get enough sleep. Eat your fruits and vegetables, get good quality nutrition, hydrate, make sure you're drinking enough water, and then make sure you're exercising and moving your body. From there, some other things that can boost your immune system are things like meditation. So a recent study showed that people who meditate upregulated genes that support a healthy immune system. Also, spending time in nature. We know that people who spend time in nature increase their production of natural killer cells, which are an important immune cell. And finally, number 7 is supplements, everybody's favorite topic when it comes to boosting your immune system. Things like vitamin D, vitamin C, zinc, and elderberry have shown to decrease the duration and the severity of a lot of symptoms of common infections. Now, with vitamin D, that might be something that you supplement with year-round, especially if you're in an area where you don't get a lot of sunlight. Vitamin C, you really have to watch out because a lot of those supplements contain a lot of sugar or other ingredients that aren't necessarily going to be helpful. For zinc, you want to make sure to take it in an oral form because some of the nasal forms can affect your sense of smell. And then finally, elderberry seems to be everywhere these days. You can take it in a syrup, in a pill form, and use it to help boost your immune system. Remember, there's no magic pill, but all of these 7 things can help you to boost your body's immune system.
Wild Health, the official healthcare provider of Spartan. We'll be right back to this interview, but first, a quick message from Trifecta.
We started Trifecta with a very singular mission: to get America into shape. We were really interested in launching a business that was able to actually directly help people. That happened to be us helping with the chronic disease crisis that's caused by nutrition. We make it with organic ingredients, macro balanced meals, fully biodegradable packaging.
Trifecta's here. Oh yeah!
We have an amazing company mission to help get America back into shape.
Use the code Spartan at trifectanutrition.com to save 40% off your first meal plan order. Now back to the interview.
Tell me what you unlocked when you crossed Antarctica. What happened to you mentally?
So it's interesting, though. I actually intentionally deleted almost all my music, all my podcasts when I was walking across there, because I had this theory. The theory was I could try to distract my mind, and that would be easier in the short run. But if I could actually embrace the stillness, embrace the silence, I think I could find some deep places of flow. So that was my thesis going in. So I went, and so I didn't have the crutch of it. I deleted almost all my music, all my podcasts. I'll tell you what, day 4, day 5, another day of silence. I was like, now that was the stupidest idea ever, right? But my thesis proved to be right, which was once my mind got over that spinning, the anxiety, the nervous and whatever, I found so many days of deep meditative flow out there. And interestingly enough, I was actually not just racing history to become the first person to complete this crossing, but there was another guy, this badass British Army captain, special forces guy who was out there racing head to head against me. I ended up ahead of him. He kicked my butt at first, but I ended up ahead of him. So it was a really intense sort of battle out there. You can read my other book, The Impossible First. It's all about this. But when I got to the end, I had achieved this massive thing. There was, front page headlines in the New York Times, all this sort of external praise, all this kind of stuff, about the achievement. And as I wrote my last book, I wrote the last chapter of my last book. The last chapter is not called "I Did It, I'm Freaking Awesome." What the last chapter of my book is called, is Infinite Love. Because beyond all the intensity, all the battle, all the competitiveness, and don't get me wrong, I'm a competitive guy. I was trying to be first, and I'm proud of being first, all this. What I was actually left with was this place of flow and peace and love and gratitude for my family, my friends, my community, my life, this amazing opportunity to be alive and to live life fully. And so that's what I unlocked out there. And every time I've done the 12-hour walk, it's another way to tap back in to that energy.
What happens if you're just a civilian out there, you roll the dice, you're putting down the donut right now and you're walking out your front door? Like what if they spin out of control with negative thoughts? What would you recommend? Any tips or tricks?
Yeah, not just a plug for the book, but I'll answer that in a few minutes here on the podcast. But the book, the book is an essential companion to the walk. I encourage people to read the book before taking the walk because it really lays out a framework for thoughts and advice and thought starters and what to work on. Also, the 12hourwalk.com is my website, got all sorts of different information, thought starters, etc. There's an app that I have. Funny enough, I built an app for a thing that's supposed to be about not phones, but what the app actually essentially does is puts your phone in airplane mode, but it still gives you access to maps, and so you can track your walk. So I was like, well, people are going to try to keep looking at their phone. I'm like, fine, give them an app. It's the 12-hour walk app. Your phone's on airplane mode, but you can still track yourself. So there are some supplemental things, the book, the website, the app, etc. Come sign up so I can send you some words of encouragement along the way before you're prepping for your journey. But the negativity is part of the process. It's part of the process. I have yet, I'm sure there's some edge case, but I have yet to find someone who doesn't have some negative thoughts throughout the walk. But I've also yet to find someone who those negative thoughts, the 12 hours is long enough that it cycles through. It cycles through. I know, a big long Spartan race or an ultra endurance, marathon, people always say, oh, I hit the wall, running a 100-mile run. Like I was at mile 30 and I didn't think I could take a step further. But on mile 50, I was running faster than I've ever run in my entire life, the up and down of that. And so the 12-hour walk is not it's not a way to minute 1, hour 1, tap into this deep meditative flow state. It's actually to do some battle with your inner demons, to acknowledge them, to be aware of them. But the 12 hours is also long enough that I find for people that they work through that. So oftentimes when things get hard, right, what our knee-jerk response to do, particularly in our modern societies, things are hard, I quit, I just want to go back to my comfort zone. But when you commit to the 12 hours in that first hour, that first, second hour, third hour where you're alone with your thoughts and there's some negativity, as long as you commit to completing it, what I find is there's some implicit resolution that does happen within the mind, body, and spirit. And you know what? Like I said about those 1s and 10s earlier, having some of those 1 moments out there, having some tough hours in your body, in your mind, in your negative thoughts, that's part of this journey. But the book helps you reorient back to learning to be aware of those negative thoughts, rewrite those limiting beliefs, and turn them into a possible mindset.
I love it. How do people find the book?
This book is really for everyone and anyone who's looking to improve themselves, who's looking to get better. And got one of the early reviews back that says, I guess it was a nice review. It said something like, this technically is in the self-development genre, and if you're looking to improve yourself, you're going to get a lot out of this book. Also, if you're just an adrenaline junkie or a thrill seeker or an armchair traveler, this is a must-read because the stories are rich, they're powerful. So you're going to be entertained along the way as I tell you journeys and stories from my own life, my own failures, my own ups and downs throughout my own journey. And then commit to the 12-hour walk. 12hourwalk.com. It's free to sign up. This whole thing is free, but it allows me to continue to send you some prompts, some inspiration along the way, and keep track of your walk. Download the app. And lastly, as I mentioned before, this walk can be done any single day. I encourage you to take the walk, share with me your journey. I want to hear how it went. But if you're looking for that extra level of accountability, September 10th, massive call to action. Lots of people are going to be taking the walk on that day. So join me, join a larger global community of folks doing the 12-hour walk. I guess I'll end, Joe, by saying, so when are you taking your 12-hour walk, brother?
I was just thinking, I was going to tell the entire community to park their cars like 5 or 6 miles away from the Spartan race. The next time they go do a Spartan, they got to walk.
Yes.
So that's what we're gonna, right? That's what we're gonna do. We're gonna maybe 12 miles away, maybe 20 miles away.
Cover some distance in 12 hours.
Awesome. Exactly. And Colin, I assume while I'm on that walk, I can carry my laptop and spider bracket.
Of course,
as long as I don't
all
go.
Your extra accessories. Just don't, just keep it on airplane mode.
It's got to be on airplane mode, but I could have all the attachments, no problem.
Exactly.
In between walking, buying Colin's book, make sure you get yourself a spider bracket. Those guys made this happen. And check out spiderbracket.com and get your accessories. I always love seeing you. Thanks for coming. And I got to do my walk, September 10th. I got to do it.
All right. Love it. Can't wait.
This episode of Spartan Up is brought to you by Trifecta. Trifecta delivers delicious, macro-balanced meals directly to your door. Use the code SPARTAN at trifectanutrition.com to save 40% off your first meal plan order. Maximize energy, optimize nutrition, and improve performance with Wild Health. Personalized precision healthcare built for Spartans. You'll get a personalized health plan based on your DNA and biometrics and the support of a team of health experts. Sign up at wildhealth.com with the code SPARTAN10 to save 10%.